Hello, everyone, and welcome to a great live wrap-up. Toby Lambert from the podium finish. With me is Ben Snyder, Casey Campbell, welcome Matthew Bro, and welcome to the newest member of the Grid Network family, Jonathan Fidel. Jonathan, we're very excited to have you join our team this year in 2023. How excited are you to be a part of growing Grid Network?
Very excited. I grew up watching the old Speed channel and all the different motorsports on there. So it's awesome to see. I was watching the intro there and just seeing all the different motorsports and whatnot, and just being able to take that all in and talk about it. I love it so much. Touring cars, supercars, stock cars, you name open wheel cars, it's here. So it's cool to be a part of. Happy to be with you guys.
Yeah, really excited to have you here. And before we get started, we also want to thank our amazing Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deschelle, and Robin. Also want to welcome our newest Patreon supporter, David. Welcome to the Grid Network family. We appreciate everyone's support as we continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Please like and subscribe. And we want to thank everybody for helping us reaching our goal of getting 500 subscribers. But before the Daytona 500, now our new ambitious goal, we're trying to get 1,000 subscribers before the Indianapolis 500 on May 28th, Memorial Day weekend. Also, be sure to comment in the chat room and ask questions you have. Only 2 races to recap tonight: the NASCAR Cup Series at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum short track and the Liqui-Moly. But first, it's Ben with our NASCAR panel to break down the Busch Light Clash.
Thank you, Kobe. Forgive me in advance. I'm running the stream tonight for the first time in 2.5 months, so I might be a little slow to react, but we're going to do our best here. And again, welcome, Jonathan. It's great to have you on the Grid Network team. Recapping the Clash here in 2023, the qualifying races saw more contact this year, with the first 3 heats having a caution each. All of them had a single car spin. The fourth heat went caution-free despite beating and banging. The last chance qualifiers had half of a 2022 championship 4, with Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott not transferring through the heats. They made it in by finishing in the top 3 of their respective LCQ races. Austin Cindric, the 2022 Daytona 500 champion, got in by the points provisional. In total, 27 drivers took to the Busch Light Clash, an increase from last year's field of the LA Coliseum. It was the second largest event in Clash history, dating back to when it was held at Daytona for many, many years. And the physical racing continued with multiple cautions, a sharp increase over last year's 16 to 5. Most cars were involved in at least one incident throughout the night. In the end, Martin Truex Jr. survived and won the gold medal. Austin Dillon took silver, and Kyle Busch took bronze. So we'll bring our NASCAR panel back in here, and we'll start with you, Jonathan. How big of a confidence boost is this for Truex after a winless 2022, missing the playoffs, and now going into the Daytona 500, a race he's still trying to win for the first time?
I think it's vindication. If you look back at the playoff standings before, the playoffs began, Martin Truex Jr. was top 5 in points, had a really good season. And then because he didn't win a race, he got knocked out and had a lot of really close calls with victories when the playoffs did start. You remember Bristol, you remember Darlington, other races like that. So I think this is vindication that he's always had the speed. He just didn't get that win. Now that he's got the win, I think this could be a real resurgent season for Martin Truex Jr. I even hesitate to call it a resurgent season just because he was so good last season, but it's just a big weight off his shoulders. I'm very happy that he was able to get the win. We heard about some different things that he went through in the offseason. So I think just vindication, relief, satisfaction.
If you guys can hear me all right, wrong activity issues over here. I can definitely agree with Jonathan here with the point. I don't know, because he was so successful last season, right? He just couldn't get that win. And now with the way the sport has shifted, you pretty much need to win. And then with the new rule change, if Cody Ware wins, he'll be in the playoffs. And not to bash Cody Ware, I'm just saying because he was 32nd out of the 32 time drivers last season. For Truex, he's reminding me a little bit of Kevin Harvick a couple years ago, where he had that real outburst and then didn't do anything. And we were like, oh gosh, Kevin Harvick's never going to win again. And then he began to win and he went back to back. So I think we might see Martin Truex do something like that. The Clash, people are like, oh, it doesn't count. It doesn't matter. But for the confidence of those 27 drivers who made the field, I think it's going to be great, especially for Truex, who's never won at Daytona, to lead into it. But then there's some other teams like RFK who their confidence is clearly not the same as Joe Gibbs Racing. And Toyota had all 6 entries make the field. And that was pretty cool to see. but despite them only having 6 entries, though, compared to Ford and Chevrolet. But the TRD president did say there might be an increase in the next coming years, which will be interesting. But yeah, I agree with what Jonathan's Truex, and I really think he can have a great year. Think this shows that he could be a playoff driver. But if we follow what happened last year with Logano, hey, Truex might win the whole darn thing. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Matthew, we can hear you fine. Your camera's frozen, so I don't know if you might want to try coming out and or going out and coming back in. But in terms of connectivity, we can hear you fine. So all good on that end there. Jonathan, I agree with you as well. I think I made this point clear during some of our postseason or playoff shows last year. Don't let the 17th place final point standings rank tell the story of Martin Truex Jr.'s 2022 season, because he certainly performed much better than 17th would indicate. He just didn't end up winning a race, and because of how much parity we saw last year, got left out of the playoffs as a result. I want to catch up on the chat here. Adam Lemery saying, welcome, Jonathan. You're in good hands with everyone at Grid Network, and our own team leader, Joe Samniego, welcoming you as well. Like I said, great to have you as part of our team now. Joe also saying Truex looked good all weekend compared to last year, struggling and spun with McDowell at the end of a 2022 clash. And Adam says, will it be a redemption year for MTJ in 2023? And again, I think, the only redemption in the only sense of the word of, getting into the playoffs and having a postseason or final standings rank higher than 17th, because I think, if this is any indication, he's still liable to win on any given Sunday. So I think he's going to have a very solid year, as we've come to expect from him in the last several years or so. Mm-hmm. Well, now talking about some other Toyota drivers, before the halfway break, Bubba Wallace had a strong showing, moving Denny Hamlin out of the lead. Bubba lost the lead to Ryan Preece eventually, and then lost another spot to Truex. He then got spun late in the race by Austin Dillon, although Dillon said he didn't mean to hit him that hard. He ended up coming home in 22nd. Bubba Wallace did. His teammate for 2311 Racing, Tyler Reddick, came home in 6th place. So compared to a year ago, Matthew, we'll go to you first here if you're still with us. Is this an indication of the 2311 team improving year to year with both cars in the clash and being up front most of the night?
And hopefully, even if you can't see me, it's like an appealing froze screen. I don't know if you can see me.
Well, now it looks like the audio might be lagged a little bit, but we can see you, and it's not a frozen screen here. So go ahead. We'll try to make the most of it here.
Okay, I sincerely apologize. I'm even connected to a LAN cable, whatever you call it, and we're still having some silly geese with this internet connection, nonetheless. But if you can hear me, most of you, like most of the words I'm saying, I'll try to be coherent as possible. I think this is definitely an indication for 2311. Considering last year's clash, Kurt Busch got wrecked in the LCQ, and then Bubba had probably the worst performance he's ever had. He just kept getting lapped in the clash. And then 2311, I mean, let's be honest, I feel like Austin Dillon didn't spin him. He yeeted him into the wall. Like, there was no indication of braking whatsoever. But at the same time, you have to say that it was short track racing. That's whole the thing. That's what he was mad about, right? And Bubba was upset, as you could see, but then he was capped with his team. It's an exhibition. But Tyler Reddick was like a silent killer in that race. I mean, he was bumping everyone, but he finished up 6th. They had 2 top 8 finishers if it wasn't for getting yeeted, like I had mentioned, for a lack of a better term. That's how we say it in our generation. But I think for 2311, considering how poor their performance come out and do this, with Daytona being Bubba Wallace's arguably his best track besides Talladega and Kansas in terms of the other series as well, I think they have a legitimate shot. This was a confidence boost to be up front running, because that's not something this team has seen a lot of until Kurt Busch. He's still with the organization. And Tyler Reddick had 3 wins last season. He dominated the first portion of the clash, the 63 laps, and then having a mechanical issue. But yeah, I think this is a good indication, but you never know, because the last time a Toyota dominated a clash last year was Kyle Busch, and then that was the worst thing we've ever before he left to go to Richard. So yeah, if you can hear me still, I'm still chatting, and I think this will be a great indication for 2311, and I think my boldest prediction is they're going to have the same amount of wins as Joe Gibbs Racing this season.
Oh, that's a bold prediction. We can still hear you mostly all right, so hopefully we're all set there. Jonathan, go ahead.
Perfect.
Wow. I heard his prediction of JGR having the same amount of wins as 2311. I think that's interesting. I don't think it's far off either, because you look at last year when Bubba Wallace's team really got their act together, they were on fire. You saw Michigan, you saw Kansas, you saw Las Vegas before everything happened, that Bubba Wallace had a lot of speed in these races, that he could really get up there, really cut through the pack, really winning stages, winning races, doing things like that. So I think going back to the Clash, again, vindication, that 2311 has speed, Bubba Wallace was up there running well. I think the one thing, and this is something very personal for Bubba, I think he just has to focus when things get down. And I think that was one thing that he learned last season. There was a lot of down moments where it seemed like the team was behind the 8 ball. Just learning to bounce back. He and Booty Barker have a really good relationship, and I think that goes a long way. And you see it in Bubba, especially in his second half of 2022. Now, I want to agree with Matthew on Tyler Reddick. If you were watching the action back in the pack, it always seemed like that dark black and blue white car it seemed to always be kind of causing a little calamity in the back. It's kind of interesting to watch, and then he ended up with a quiet finish. I think Reddick could be on pace to have a really good season this year, but I'm just curious about where 2311 is at. I know I just mentioned that they have all this speed and whatnot, but just with the parity of the field and how good RCR looked last night, I'm just curious as to how Reddick is going to stack up in 2023 compared to how he was in 2022. If he's going to get the same amount of wins, same amount of speed, I don't know. It seems like the two teams, 2311 and RCR, are very similar.
Yeah, well, that's a nice segue into our next discussion here. You want to talk about Tyler Reddick and the team he was formerly at. Austin Dillon's new teammate Kyle Busch took over that number 8 Chevrolet that Reddick drove last year. He was spun by Joey Logano during the string of cautions following the halfway break, but drove through the field. A very nice recovery to join Dillon on the podium. So, Jonathan, is this a similar question to what we just asked for 2311? Is this a strong showing that could be a sign of a boost in positive momentum for RCR as well?
Well, obviously, I think the Clash only goes so far, in indicating performance. Like last year, we saw, like Rick Ware Racing, they had some good performance in the Clash, but didn't do as much as the season went on. But I think it is a good indication of, what Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon may do. Personally, I still am trying to get used to Kyle Busch being with, RCR and still being teammates with Austin Dillon, but I think it's a good pair. Kyle Busch, of course, the wily veteran, who has a lot to bring to the table in terms of setups, in terms of, the business of the sport. Austin Dillon, who, we heard that he helped negotiate Kyle Busch coming to the team, and he's got a lot of talent too. I know he often gets written off, because he's Richard Childress' son, but I mean, he did not get a truck championship and an Xfinity championship for nothing. Has a lot of talent, has a lot to bring, has won some marquee races. I think those two are going to be a really good pairing, and I like the energy that they have between each other, and I think that showed even in the post-race interviews where you saw Kyle and Austin interacting with each other, talking. I think this shows kind of an interesting pairing. You wouldn't think of Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch being a pairing, but I think it's going to be a good one to watch in 2023.
Around video, but I definitely can agree with that. And I think it's kind of scary, to be honest with you. When's the last time we saw Kyle Busch legitimately happy? He's gonna come for blood this season, not literally, but in my opinion, I think Kyle Busch is probably one of the greatest ever, and he's arguably with Dale Sr. ever set foot in a Richard Childress car, even though he hasn't done anything yet. You can argue that. And to see Austin Dillon, I don't like any slander of any driver. And like what Jonathan was mentioning about Austin Dillon, like he's won championships, 2 different series, and he's won very important races in NASCAR in the Cup level for any stretch of the imagination. But he did a lot to get Kyle, absolutely. And then to see Kyle Busch come out, get spun out by Logano, and then to just go through the field like he told, I don't know if it was Jeff Gluck, but he said something like, well, I just passed him when he was asked, how'd you get through the field? Like Kyle Busch is out for vengeance, and it's going to be a scary season. He's like the new man in black in the number 8 car. Might be the greatest to ever drive the 8 car too. Just messing around, actually. But this is a great indication of what we'll see from Richard Childers. They had, I think, an underrated season into the year as a rookie, not a rookie, someone who didn't win is what I meant to say. And he won 3 races, like very quietly. Like he was like in NASCAR with wins. But he just had a very inconsistent playoff run, completely fell off the face of it. But with Toyota, and then it's good for Toyota with road courses, something that they really lack on. Going to be great. But I think RCR have 2 cars in the round of 12. I think Austin Dillon might have one of his best seasons yet. If we take any indications from this exhibition, 45 hours and 27 minutes. But yeah, that's how I feel about RCR. I think they can have a great season.
Glad you brought up Reddick being a championship contender. I know Casey's going to appear a little bit later, but we were touting him early on in the season last year, so I'm glad you brought that up.
He's got a long way to go to catch, I think, Dale Jr. and Joe Weatherly for best to ever drive the 8 car, but wouldn't put it past Kyle Busch either. He's certainly got a lot of talent, and I think he's going to help elevate that entire program along with Austin Dillon. Great to see him have a solid showing as well. Now, one driver who did not have a great day was Chase Elliott, who experienced multiple incidents and was a non-factor pretty much all evening. However, his teammate Alex Bowman was back up front fighting for the win. Bowman missed 5 races, of course, last year due to concussion-like symptoms. Matthew, I'll go to you first here. Did Bowman surprise you at all last night? And do you think he's a strong contender for what would be a 6th consecutive front row start of a Daytona 500?
I want to say he did kind of surprise me because I just mentioned previously about how I don't like to slander any driver, but like looking back at some of my clips, I feel like I am the hardest on Alex Bowman due to either winning a race or finishing 26. You never know what you're going to get out of Bowman. And I'm to leave Hendrick Motorsports. Maybe he's going to go to the 4 car. Maybe if Christopher Bell goes to the 4 because of those fun, silly season things we have to do even before the season starts, then Bowman will go join Joe Gibbs. Obviously, that's not going to happen. You never know. But Bowman did surprise me, and I feel bad. Like, I really do feel bad for saying he's so inconsistent. My first ever Cup race he won. So it was pretty cool to see. I think he's going to show up again. He just has to deal with he's got to be more consistent. It's just that simple. He's got to get out there. He's a great driver, come from a lot. Like you see a lot of guys usually come up right through the ranks and just dominate. You don't see many Ross Chastains out there where they finish not really good full time and then 20th in points and all of a sudden second in points the next season. You'll see that a lot. But when Alex Bowman got the call to take over the 88 for an injured Dale Jr., that showed praise. And I think I should have looked at it more back then. I think Alex Bowman's got a lot of talent. He deserves to be there. I think if he stays healthy as well, he's definitely a champ, maybe round 8 contender as well. But in terms of Daytona, I think he could start up front, but there's no way that he's going to finish up front, as we've seen from Daytona. He's been one of those guys who always is up there at the start of the race, but he can never close it out, unfortunately. But I would love to see him shut me up. I'll be laughing so hard if he wins the Daytona 500 because he's a very talented driver. Don't get me wrong. But I think I love to see accolades and records. I would love to see him start on the front row. I really would. I don't know if he'll do it, though. I don't think this quarter-mile track will really show what they can do on a 2.5-mile track. But we're going to find out in 10, 11 days. I don't even know because they can't even practice, which isn't even fair. So the qualifying, whenever qualifying is for Cup for Daytona, we're going to see what Alex Bowman can do. And I'm excited. I'm just excited to be back, guys. I mean, really.
Yeah, you got that right. I'm excited to be back too. But going back to Alex Bowman, I think this was the first showing of what Blake Harris could do with Alex Bowman. Because if you remember, last season, Michael McDowell had Blake Harris up on the box, and he had his best season of his career. They had that 34 car looked really good, led laps at Gateway, looked good on the road courses. Super Speedway's course for Michael McDowell is always good. But now you have him over at Hendrick Motorsports with Alex Bowman. I think last night kind of showed how I think Bowman has a fire under his belly. He has a lot of support behind him with Ally. That's what I think really is going to help him out, is that support from Ally, the crew chief Blake Harris. So if you remember back in 2020, he did pretty good. He had a good run through the playoffs, obviously came up short, didn't make the championship 4, but he showed strength. He was one of the 2 best cars before the whole world got shut down. Him and Ryan Blaney, he won an Auto Club. So I think Alex Bowman might surprise some people this year. Just having the right people behind him, having the right partners. Hendrick Motorsports, they're obviously committed to Alex Bowman. They wouldn't have gone out and gotten one of the hottest shoes in the garage area as far as crew chiefs if they didn't commit to Alex Bowman. That's why I think, you hear so much about, what's going to happen to Alex Bowman? Where's he going to be? I don't think he's going to be at Hendrick. I say no. I think Alex Bowman is a strong driver at Hendrick Motorsports, and I think he's going to surprise some people. And last night's performance in the Clash was a good indicator of that.
I totally agree. I want to catch up on some of the chat here. I apologize. I've been having some connection issues with Matthew. I want to make sure we get all those sorted out. But I do want to say hi to Demas, one of our regulars. Good to see you in the chat here. Humperdinck, I believe this is in reference to Matthew's take that 2311 could equal or surpass Gibbs in total number of wins this year. Of course, we haven't even started the season yet officially, so we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. Demas seemed to enjoy the clash at the Coliseum last night and the fireworks at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, and also brings up another point that was revealed on the broadcast last night. Kevin Harvick, of course, will be retiring at the end of this season. He'll be going into the Fox booth full-time following that, so we'll see where his journey goes from there. I know that was rumored for a long time. He's been doing a lot of the Xfinity broadcasts with Fox, so good to see him. Good to see that he'll still be involved with the sport in some capacity there. Now, this year, like I mentioned earlier, the Clash field expanded from 23 last year to 27 this year. Most of the cautions came from incidents occurring towards the back of the field. Caution laps also didn't count during the weekend, which extended the race time significantly longer than it was last year. So, Jonathan, is this something NASCAR may want to consider adjusting if we bring the Clash back to the Coliseum in the future with a smaller field, or is that just part of the nature of short track racing?
Well, I think it's a little bit of each. It kind of reminded me of a Bristol race, where guys would beat and bang with each other, trying to fight for the bottom, getting aggressive. And compared to last year, I think the drivers were much more confident in how they could handle the Gen 7 car. And also, too, there wasn't the type of supply shortage that there was last year. Because if you remember, some teams were even questioning if they were going to make it through the first few races with, enough cars and supplies, and wondering how they're going to make it through. And now this year, I think there's a little more leeway where drivers could really race and be themselves and really give it all they got. On top of that, too, they expanded the field, which I think had a big impact on the racing. Because, last year with 23 cars, we only saw 5 cautions in the whole race. This year, we saw 16 cautions. So I think scaling back the field, maybe back to that 23 cars might help clean up some of the racing. Caution laps as well. We saw in the second half where it seemed like a lot of the racing really started to ramp up. Guys started to get more aggressive. And that's just the general nature of racing. But I think in that second half, it's kind of a damned if you do it, damned if you don't. If you start counting the caution laps, guys are going to get more aggressive. You're going to get more wrecks, more overtimes, things like that. I don't know if they should touch the caution laps, but definitely with the field sizes, that might be something to look at, especially to keep the Clash exclusive.
Matthew, you still with us?
If you guys can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay. Gosh, I am so sorry. I'll have to figure out my internet. I had so long to prepare for this too, guys, and for some reason today was not my day. But I think if NASCAR started doing the caution laps, counting them, that race would have been 37 seconds long, they should. I mean, I like the Clash, just the size of the track. I don't like that we're racing on a high school track, literally like a track and field track. Ben and I were having a conversation about our previous athletic days doing track and field, but we shouldn't do a race. We shouldn't have 27 race cars on a track that small. And so I know they have the 3-year deal. This was year 2. Next year, 76 years. I don't know if they have to return there. If you went to an already established track, you don't have to build, maybe add to it a little bit in California. the whole getting new fans is a wonderful thing. And that's what an exhibition race is about. Wiz Khalifa performing. I didn't have any trouble with that. The only 4 Wiz Khalifa songs I knew were the 4 that he performed. But yeah, like I'm not complaining about these stretch, but they really should change that. I think that would be, I don't know though, if making the smaller field would be the quick fix. I really think they should just not. It's pretty historic. And I like that comment. I think they could count caution laps until maybe 25 to go or less. I just think if they did that, the past race, instead of ending at like 10:30, would have ended at like 9 right after. But I think now the drivers, like Jonathan was mentioning, with new cars, they were driving a little more carefully. And now they know how they have the supplies, and they were just full sending it into every single corner. I don't think there's one driver who didn't try to make contact with the car in front of it, unless maybe the cars who didn't even make the race, like BJ McLeod. Sorry, I don't think he touched the car because during his heats and qualifying, he played it smart, I think. But yeah, I think short track racing track with larger vehicles than most. Like if this was a Bandolero race, or if a Legend would be nice because they could fit, even a lawnmower race. Not next gen stock cars. I don't think that works here. And I like the whole idea of it. I'm for it. But at the same time, it's like, please don't make me sit through that again, because it wasn't really as short track racing as I think we would all like it to be. But hey, we don't make the rules though. So we'll see what happens whenever they announce it.
Well, listen, I get it with charters, nowadays, especially, from a business standpoint, and also you're going all the way out to Los Angeles. You want all your big names to be guaranteed to at least have an opportunity to race in the main event. But I miss the days where, a driver would get out of their car after winning the pole and say, we're in the Clash next year, we're in the Bud Shootout, or having that reward to look forward to. I miss there not being an event that's exclusive to the pole winners. And really, I think 2009 was the first year they did something weird with the format with, a number of manufacturer guaranteed spots or whatever. And they've been messing with it, year in and year out ever since. So, I don't know. I mean, I would think if the Clash is going to be back in Los Angeles, it's going to be an event open up to everybody, at least for the foreseeable future. But I do agree. I think, when you talk about 27 cars, there's 36 chartered entries. So it's 3/4 of the Cup Series field, on a tiny little stadium track like that. I don't think it's too much of a surprise that we saw more caution laps this year. And then, of course, the fact that caution laps don't count, extended the race much further into the night than I think people were anticipating it would go. So we'll see if they, we got to remember, we've only been doing this for 2 years now. So, situation's fluid. We're going to look at, how we can improve it for next year. If we even come back next year, and others talk that they want to rotate this event and maybe the All-Star race as well. So we'll see what the future holds for both of those events here. Now, on a more serious note, last night, changes to the next-gen car's rear clip were brought to attention, including areas to improve the crumpling and energy absorption. However, Bubba Wallace said during the race through the radio that the hits were still hard. Kyle Larson also said a similar thing after the race, saying he felt almost every hit his head would move forward. Matthew, how concerning is it to hear this feedback, especially considering the top speeds on a track this size being much lower compared to an average Cup race?
It is very, very, very concerning. I mean, like you could feel your way about certain drivers. Like you'll see comments of like when Bubba Wallace said it, people are like, oh, blah, 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 this, that. But then when you saw Kyle Larson say it, so you had that second driver that was like, no, this is not good. NASCAR spent 3 months and it's maybe worse. I mean, I don't know if it could be worse technically because drivers were full sending into each other, like I had mentioned. But at the same time, when Bubba Wallace is going to a turn 60 miles per hour, gets hit, and he's like, oh, this doesn't feel very good. He complained last year, too. One of his hits at, I don't know if it was Atlanta, said something like, I can't keep doing it because it's like it takes a lot out of these drivers getting hit at whatever, whether it's 60 miles per hour clearly or whether it's 180 miles per hour at these super speedways. Yeah, like we're talking in our private chat here too. Denny Hamlin also said that it'll hurt. Two very with Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson very consistent, and then Bubba Wallace being up there too, making his. I would love to see guys like Alex Bowman make comments about this. I want to see. direction we're going into. And it makes you wonder, this car was still rushed, and we could say that it was rushed. We've been saying that. But when you spend 3 months and it's changed on a track where the average speed is, I don't know, if you don't count the cost, probably 20 miles per hour if you count that. But if you don't count that, they were going 60, 65, up to 80, down back to like 40, 30. It's quite worrisome, yes. And when Bubba Wallace says it, and then when Kyle Larson says it, now Denny Hamlin, NASCAR's got to listen, because it's something's bad for Daytona where the speeds triple technically. So, well, not from 80, but get up to like 200, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it quite worrisome. I am worried. I hate that feeling. We had that feeling last year at, I believe, Talladega, where you just want them to finish the race. You don't want anything to happen. And I would not like to start this season off the same way.
Jonathan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think at this point, it is cause for concern. But one thing that NASCAR has done is they've done something. They haven't ignored the safety issue. And I think they'll continue to develop the car, throughout the season. They'll continue to work on solutions, and the drivers need to keep expressing what they're feeling in the car, because that's the only way NASCAR is going to know. That's the only way NASCAR is going to understand what's going on with these drivers. I think both sides are right, where the drivers have a right to say, hey, that hurt. And NASCAR has a right to say, hey, we're working on something. We're getting something. It's a tough situation, because NASCAR wanted this Gen 7 car in for the manufacturers, for the racing. And now we're kind of, wondering, what do we do to fix these different components? I just want to say one thing, though, with the Gen 7 car, it was designed to take on, big impacts. We saw Harrison Burton's flip in the Daytona 500 last year. We saw things like, Ryan designed to withstand a wreck like Ryan Newman's 2020 Daytona 500 crash. The problem has been with some of the smaller hits. That's what the drivers have talked about, the smaller hits. How do we combat that? How do we make it easier on the drivers? It's a work in progress. It's a tough situation, because you can't just flip a switch and instantly have a solution overnight. Now, I do not doubt NASCAR's engineers one bit, because they are very smart people. However, you just have to get in the race. You just have to understand, what it's going to be like in real life execution. And it's a tough spot, but both sides just got to keep doing their job.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I think there are very valid concerns. I understand the other side of it as well. You have to give NASCAR time, but at the same time, if there's one area we can't afford to take a step back on, it's certainly safety. We always want to be moving forward there. And unfortunately, the fact that we're in a world where, Jonathan, you brought up the Ryan Newman crash. I guess we're never really going to be able to know exactly when Ryan Newman would have come back, because obviously he missed 3 races and then the pandemic hit and we were off for 2 months. But as soon as we were back to racing, Ryan Newman was back to racing as well. So there's a maximum of 3 months you could say that he was out from that. The fact that Kurt Busch still is not cleared to compete, and when you compare just the eye test, looking at Kurt's accident compared to Ryan Newman's, it seems very, very backwards that wreck would be more severe in terms of Kurt's health than it was in Ryan's case. So it is still concerning to hear this dialogue among the drivers. But at the same time, NASCAR has a very, very good track record of safety over the last 2 decades here. So I have no doubt that they're continuing to actively look for a solution and find a solution. But at the same time, they're not going to find that solution in the next 2 weeks here. And we do have the biggest race of the year, one of the fastest tracks of the season coming up. So it might be a cause for a little bit of concern there. We'll just have to wait and see and hope everybody, pulls through and is all right. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us, and apologize that we're having some connection issues here tonight. I think we made the best of it. I understand you've got some other things to get to this evening, so we want to let you go here. But before we do, what's your one shining moment from this weekend in racing?
Yeah, and I want to apologize to everyone. I try not to let this happen again. I'm not sure what's going on with my laptop, but I think the one shining moment, to be honest, is LA established like us, but the new fans got to see a show, whether it was Wiz Khalifa, Dixie D'Amelio, the longest short track race in NASCAR exhibition style. But great what they're doing. I mean, the Clash has been outselling the Daytona Clash. Like, these past 2 years combined have severely outsold the past couple Daytona clashes. And so it's exciting you want to bring new fans to the sport. And I think they're doing just that. Whether the older fans don't like it as much, it's all about where we're going to be 5 years, where we're going to be in 10 years. And I think this is what they did was great. So I think the stars of the night are going to be the people that got to see this for the very first time, not like us who have been watching it since we were in diapers. So that's going to be my star of the night. Truex too, but I think I'll save that for one of you guys. But yeah, thank you guys for having me tonight. And I'm very sorry about the internet connection, but I look forward to being with you guys every Saturday, every Sunday, maybe a couple articles here and there. I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jonathan, and everyone backstage as well. So Kobe, Casey, everyone, thank you guys. And I'm gonna head out, but have a great rest of the show. And I look forward to talking to you guys again.
Sure.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for persevering through that. We'll talk to you soon. All right, real quick before we bring Kobe and Casey back in, just a couple of chat comments to catch up on here quickly. Adam asks, what were your impressions of Ryan Preece last night? I thought he did a great job. I thought it was unfortunate that he had the electrical issues set in a little bit that kind of took him out of contention for the win, but he's got a great opportunity this year and a great car, great equipment with Stewart-Haas. Hope that he can make the most of it. He certainly seemed to make the most of it last night. Humperdinck asks, who do you think is more at fault for these issues, NASCAR or Dallara? I know IndyCar has also had multiple issues with the DW12 and IR18. I'm going to stay out of that one. I'm not an engineer by any stretch of the imagination. I'll defer to some of the others on that one. But regardless, it is still an issue that I think is on the minds of a lot of people. So we'll see where they take it from here.
I do want to, I do want to touch on the Ryan Preece thing. I'm going to stay away from the second one as well.
Sure.
But the Ryan Preece thing, Ryan Preece, I think he really reminded us where he comes from. Those modified tracks, the short tracks up in the Northeast. Mike Joy always heralds him whenever Ryan Preece comes on the TV, and Mike Joy did a great job last night. Reminded us why he's a national treasure. But anyways, Ryan Preece, I think it really showed how he was able to roll the outside and really take advantage of all the bottlenecks that took place on the inside lane. He did a great job working his way to the front. If not for a fuel pump issue toward the end with about 26 laps to go, I think Ryan Preece, we'd be talking about Ryan Preece winning his first ever race with Stewart-Haas Racing and really making a statement, because you could tell last season that Ryan Preece was really hungry, really wanted to get the job done in all the races that he got. And now he's got this opportunity. He even mentioned how he and his crew chief, they really have a lingo. They've been working together. They've formed that chemistry, and we saw that last night. I think Chad Johnson's going to bring out a lot of the great in Ryan Preece. We saw that. I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Martin Truex Jr. has taken the first race of the 2023 season, NASCAR's 75th anniversary season. The next race will see points on the line and a spot in the playoffs on offer at the Daytona 500. We'll have a special Grid Live pre-race show that Sunday morning, the day of the race. Now on Saturday, our pre-race coverage included the Bathurst 12 hours, a special race for many. We're going to bring Kobe and Casey back on screen here. Kobe, a record turnout of fans and potential increase in viewership across the globe. I understand the Bathurst 12-hour had a spectacular finish.
Yeah, Ben. And the 2023 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour lived up to all the hype and didn't disappoint when a lot of drama and intense racing in the closing stages of this great endurance race at Mount Panorama kept everyone on the edge of their seats. First, the number 999 Group M Racing Mercedes-AMG GT3 lead, but experienced issues with the modem, and they were forced to change it during a late race pit stop. And despite despite getting modem changed in a good amount of time, the number 75 Sun Energy One Racing Mercedes-AMG GT3 stayed out a lot longer in clean air and exited the pits. Then a fierce battle between Jules Gounon and Mauro Engel started to heat up through the Conrad Straight up into the chase until both drivers collided, resulting in Gounon spinning. For his role in the incident, race gave Engel a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact and put him over 15 seconds back. Gounon inherited the lead, but the number 912 Manthey EMA Motorsport Porsche 911 GT3R Matt Campbell was coming in a hurry for the top spot. It seemed like Campbell's Porsche had the pace to get by the Mercedes, but he ran out of time. Ultimately, overall, one Mercedes, Jules Gounon, Kenny Habul, and Lucas Stoltz. Casey, although we didn't have safety cars to stack up the field in the last half of the race, how excited was it to watch this thrilling finish play out until the very end uninterrupted?
I never really understood how big this race is until I watched it. It is the 12 hours of Bathurst after all, and that was an exciting finish to watch. Maybe because it was the return of all the manufacturers, and basically it's back. The 12 hours of Bathurst is back, and this was my first time watching. I want to also thank Kobe for getting me into this. I was always an IMSA fan and started to get into WEC, but just overall, I think it's been very, very good to see this finish, because it was amazing to watch. Now, I was actually talking to somebody. He's like, I needed 30 more minutes of that finish out there, because we did, because it was amazing. And congrats to the Sun Energy One team and former NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Kenny Gaboul, and former sponsor Sun Energy One, for getting their second 12 hours of Bathurst, beating out. The funny thing is, Jules Gounon and Mauro Engel, they were teammates last week at the Rolex 24. Now they were racing against each other in the 12 hours of Bathurst. So it was interesting to see those two go at it. And yes, Mercedes, of course, came out on top because there were so many of them.
Yeah, Casey, and we predicted that Mercedes would be the cars to beat. And remember, on the pre-race show, we got that late breaking news alert, had a BOP adjustment before the race, and we thought it could make things a lot more even. I think it did in certain ways, but Mercedes still had the class of the field. They had all the numbers. I saw that comment there from Adam Limmery, said Casey got the Bathurst, but and in Adam's case, I'm sure he hopes that you'll get the Repco Supercars Championship bug as well as we head on into the 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, as we head into the 2023 Supercar season, really excited to see the Ford Mustang Camaros, which is going to be replacing the Holden Commodores. Really excited to see these new Gen 3 supercars in action. But getting back to the Bathurst 12-hour race, this is really crazy how during the second half of this Bathurst 12-hour, we didn't really see many incidents, that brought out the safety car. During the first half of the race, we saw safety car, a lot of incidents, some big smashes happen all throughout the track. And then the races went into a quiet rhythm for a while where nothing really happened. However, it just really built in where we saw them come 1, 2, 3 across the line. It was just really crazy because everybody's just running their own race. And then here we are. We have 3 cars in the battle for the lead. It was a great battle between Jules Gounon and Matt Campbell there at the end. I thought Campbell was going to get there, but unfortunately he just wasn't able to do it. I thought Jules Gounon, when he made I know we're gonna talk about this in a little bit, when he had the contact with Engel, I thought his tires were done when he went spinning, but apparently he wasn't. Ended up getting the job done. Real great job there by Mercedes. It was really cool that we were able to get a nice authentic finish, and we didn't need a safety car at the end to bunch everything up. And going back to the contact between Gounon and Engel, at the time, Engel was trying to he was trying to get his team back out front after the modem change, but saw an opportunity to take it back. The move didn't work. He ended up dumping Gounon. The penalty issued and stormed back in a ferocious drive, laying down multiple qualifying laps as Gounon, Campbell, and Engel came to the checkered flag. 1, 2, 3, all close together. How impressive was Mauro Engel's recovery driving? Did you agree with race control's decision to penalize him?
He did take him out, but yeah, it's at the end of the day, and actually you and I were talking about this during the race after the race when it happened, and yeah, it was it's like it's avoidable contact, but the thing is you're going for the win, and yeah, you're going to get penalized for it. I think we saw it a couple times at IMSA. I think it was if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Kobe, but I think the Wheeling Cadillac did that one year at Petit Le Mans. Can't remember who was in the car at the time, but yeah, it really was interesting because remember those two were teammates last week at the Rolex 24 driving for the WeatherTech team, the WeatherTech number 79 that won in GTD Pro, and then they're just battling it out at the 12 hours of Bathurst, and yeah, was definitely something, but no, it was I agree with the move and all that, and And yeah.
Yeah, I also agree with the penalty as well. You know, Engel was really trying to make something happen there. Unfortunately, it got into to Gunon, but no harm, no foul. I'm sure Mercedes is still really happy because they were able to get the job. And they have a feeling they would have been frustrated if Matt Campbell's Porsche was able to steal the Bathurst 12 hour. They're at the end. And also, I want to point out, you know, the great sportsmanship we saw after the checkered flag. Mario Ingo came over to Jules Gunon and you know they kind of hugged that, and it's really rare nowadays in motorsports when you see an incident like that happen to see two of these professionals coming together and, you know, been like, my bad, that was just good hard racing, we're gonna hug it out and we're gonna move on to, because we're probably gonna be driving together again sometime soon. So I thought it was a really nice moment to see a great sportsmanship between Jules Gunon and Mauro Engel there, and that recovery drive at the end, despite getting that drive-through penalty. Very, very impressive by Engel. You know, he was really coming there at the end. I believe if he had one, probably two or even three more laps in the Bathurst 12 hour, he might have gotten by Matt Campbell and could have given Jules Gunon a run for his money. And now focusing on the race winner specifically, Jules Gunon, he's now a three-time winner of this event with 3 consecutive overall victories. In 2020, he won in a Bentley. There was no race in 2021 due to the global pandemic. He won in 2022 with Sun Energy One. And again, this year, driving for the same team and co-drivers Kenny Habul and Lucas Stoltz. A quick fact, this year's Bathurst 12 hour broke the all-time distance record of 304 laps in 2002, 323 laps set this year. The final 4 hours of the race didn't have a safety car going green. Considering how difficult it is to win crown jewel endurance racing events, especially more than once, you'd be surprised that Jules Gunon has been able to win the Bathurst 12 hour, not 1, not 2, but 3 times.
Remember, Elio did win the Rolex 24 3 times too. So, yeah, it's just when it's your event and you're doing well, yeah, I mean, you can win it so many times as you want. But when you're hot, and Jules Gunon is hot. So, no, it's not surprising. I mean, it's like, you know, when you're in racing form, week's time, it's definitely going to be something to watch as we go in here. I don't know if he might be. I'm not sure if he's going to go to Dubai and race in the Asian Le Mans Series. And by the way, that is the next race on our Grid Endurance Performance Index. So 2 4-hour races at the 4 hours of Dubai, and of course, our colleague Matt White will have an update on that once. This week when we have the Grid History Report during Grid Tonight. But yeah, that's the next event in the Grid Endurance Power Performance Index. But overall, I think it's quite impressive to see what Jules Gunon is going to do. I'm working on a Jules Gunon interview as we speak, so I'll get back to you on that if I get that. So yeah, what an impressive run by just what a good few weeks he's had, and what a good few weeks that Mercedes has had in sports car racing. Performing well at the Rolex 24, and then got it done at the 12 hours of Bathurst. And I know they've got some stack drivers out in the Asian Le Mans Series. I know they're going to be in Dubai for 2 races, and then they're going to be in Abu Dhabi for the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, should be fun. We'll see if Mercedes can take more trophies.
Yeah, Mercedes definitely going to be hunting for trophies, and it's been, you know, the last couple of weeks for Jules Gunon winning the Bathurst 12 hour and Rolex 24 and GT Pro. It's also been a great last year for Jules Gunon because last year he won the 24 hours of Spa overall with Danny Huncadella and Raffaele Marciello. So Gunon's been clicking all of those crown jewel races, and I think it's quite impressive because in sports car racing, you know, having driving talent behind the wheel and having great chemistry with your team is one thing, but in sports car racing, you also need to have a lot of luck that falls your way. And it's remarkable how lucky Jules Gunon has been within the last year. You won all of these crown jewel sports car racing events, and the last 3 times winning the Bathurst 12 hour, really impressive. When we come back to Bathurst in 2024, whatever Mercedes Jules Gunon is going to be driving, he's certainly going to be one of the favorites to get the job done and try to win Bathurst for a 4th time. And we also want to recognize the other class winners. In the Pro-Am class, it was the number 65 Melbourne Performance Center Audi R8 LMS GT3 Supercar star Chaz Mostert, Fraser Ross, and Liam Talbot. In the silver class, it was the number 10 Milan Team IMS Audi R8 LMS GT3 Dylan O'Keefe, Daniel Gaunt, and Andrew Fawcett. And the number 111 MRA Motorsport Mark Invitational entry, it was Darren Curry, Grant Donaldson, and Jeff Taunton getting the job done.
Thank you, Kobe and Casey, for the Bathurst 12-hour recap. And now it's time for our Grade 1 shining moment as the show comes to an end tonight. Jonathan, since it's your first show, we're going to let you kick it off here. What was the one thing that stood out to you that you enjoyed most from this weekend in motorsports? I think you're muted, Jonathan.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the type of short track racing that we got this weekend, especially in the Coliseum. When you looked at an overhead cam, it almost looked like a stop motion track that you would I think it was Amber Balkan who brought it up on Twitter, Arca Racer, that it looked like the type of short track you would build on the carpet in your mom and dad's living room or something. I thought that was one thing that I really enjoyed. I also enjoy, I know this is 2 shining moments, but give me a little leeway here. Ty Gibbs and Chase Elliott racing it out for the LCQ. That was a lot of fun. I think we're going to see a lot more battles like that in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And it has to be Ryan Preece in the Busch Light Clash. I was very, very impressed with everything Ryan Preece was able to do in that race. And I know one person who's very, very excited about Preece's debut for Stewart Iris Racing is the co-owner, Tony Stewart. As we remember last year, all of the reports is that Gene Haas wanted to keep Cole Custer in the 41, but Tony Stewart was the one who wanted Ryan Preece in that car. And as we all know, Tony Stewart ended up winning that fight with Cole Custer going back to Xfinity to prove himself once again in hopes of potentially returning to Cup someday. But Ryan Preece, I know it's just one race, but he showed at the Busch Light Clash that he's worked so hard for this opportunity to be able to come from the modified world and compete in the highest level of stock car racing in the NASCAR Cup Series and top tier equipment capable of winning races and championships. And this LA Coliseum short track was his bread and butter. He's used to racing on races like this up in the Northeast on the modified tour. So this type of racing, this is what he's used to, and we saw on display last night. And it's been nice hearing the stories when he wasn't racing full time last year. He was he was at the shop, working on the cars himself, really getting involved. He wants this. Ryan Preece has shown, not the track that he wants this really badly. And I think this is going to be a huge year for him to show what he can do behind the wheel, to put him in that number 41 car full time. So it would not surprise me if we see Ryan Preece wins multiple times this season.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah, sorry, Casey. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm surprised no one went with the 12 hours of Bathurst, because that's my one shining moment. My other one is the person right next to my left. Welcome to Grid Network, buddy. Obviously, if you've watched my channel, he and I do a ton of shows together, so it's definitely fun to have him on. But yes, Adam, one shining moment was the 12 hour. There's nothing like racing at the mountain, because when you crash at the mountain, you crash hard at the mountain. It's a tough place to drive. I know GT World Challenge Australia is going to be going there, and I believe in a few months. So stay tuned for that. And it's definitely going to be fun. And I know the Grid Endurance Performance Index is going to change quite a bit as we go along. So my two, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Adam and Humperdinck both in the chat giving it to Bathurst and the amazing finish down to the wire without any cautions to spoil it. A proper endurance race. That's Humperdinck's one shining moment, as it was Adam's. All right, guys, I promise this is not going to become a weekly feature, but I guess if we have the one shining moment, we kind of have the anti-shining moment like we had last week with the Peacock coverage and the NBC commercials. I made some comments about NBC last week. I think it's only fair I follow it up with some comments from Fox this week. I said I would give it till halfway through the truck race at Daytona. And then I said on Twitter last night I didn't even make it through 15 laps of the Clash before I was tired of the broadcast and the camera angles and some of the other strange things here. But in following up with a one shining moment, I want to give a shout out to my editor-in-chief over at NASCAR.info, Brock Beard. And I want to make one thing very, very clear. I know Joe McHale is not watching this. Joel, I loved you on Card Sharks, by the way. You did a great job there. As far as I'm concerned, you guys got a raw deal. The show was canceled too quickly. I thought it was a very good revival. Apparently, the ratings suggested otherwise. But the driver intros last night, I think I'm just going to let Brock speak for himself here because I think he was really on point, and I think it just kind of speaks for all of us as to the show that we got during the driver intros at the Coliseum.
Who was that guy that did the driver intros by team? They couldn't get Kevin Harvick's name right. It's only his retirement season. Talk about somebody who needs to do their homework a little bit. I'm so tired of these small screen people getting out there that don't know a damn thing about this sport. Oh, well, they got a new show. They got a new show that's going to be on for 6 episodes and then be forgotten about. I'm over it. I'm over it. But I get it. It's LA. It's LA, and so they're going to do something like this. And I know they do it at other tracks too. But man, I mean, it was absurd. It was absurd.
Oh, we love Brock.
Brock Beard is a national treasure.
Oh.
By the way, Ben, congrats on being a full-time staff member at NASCAR.info, bud. You are now from a contributor to a staff member. So, yeah, congrats, bud.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And congratulations to Kyle Harvick on his retirement tour. I'm expecting a great year for him. Congratulations to Front Row Sports as well. They've really been taking some steps forward. Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland have. But yeah, no, that was certainly probably the most interesting part of the evening there. I got to say, I liked the concerts. I don't listen to a lot of Wiz Khalifa's music, my regular spare time, but I thought he did a solid job with that performance. And again, like Brock said, I get what they're trying to do, but yeah, I mean, Joel McHale, it's Kevin Harvick's retirement year, man. You can't, but let's go into the actual shining moment here. And I got to give a call to RCR. I'm not going to give a call to the actual podium ceremony, because if you watch Formula One racing, you watch the Olympics, you notice that the guy who took the silver medal and the guy who took the bronze medal are on the wrong sides here. So that was another thing that they got slightly wrong there. But if you want to talk about RCR, it was a great evening for both of them. And like I said, Jonathan, I know you and I were talking about this earlier in the show. It's only the Clash, you can only take so much stock in it, but it's a good morale boost. And I think, Kyle coming to RCR by itself, alone, that's going to be a huge boost for that team. And to have the positive momentum from a second and third place finish, it's going to be pretty good for RCR heading into Daytona, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see how Kyle Busch does in the car. He's already having a lot of fun with his partners, 3Chi and BetMGM and all that. So they're going to be a good combo, Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch and RCR can do in 2023 and beyond. And Kyle Busch and Richard Childress working together after all of these years, considering what happened in the garage during a handful of years ago that fall. Nobody expected to see here we go.
Toby, it looks like we might be losing you here. Can you still hear us? It's very, very choppy. I don't know if, and the picture looks like it's frozen as well. But sounds like we got a little bit of connection here. Can you still hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. I tell you what, I'm. It looks like Kobe's backed out here. We'll give Kobe a minute to see if he can come back in. Otherwise, I'll take over the closing here. Casey, you want to follow up while we're waiting for Kobe? You want to follow up on RCR at all?
No, I'm just happy that by the way, you know what we're going to do at this time next week? We're going to be on the Encore show. The Encore show's back. So I'm excited. I'm sure, there's Kobe. And I'm sure if our good friends, I don't think Josh is watching because I think it's his bedtime right now. And then Brandon Crosland, of course, our Xfinity and truck analyst. Of course, I'm the ARCA guy, and plus I contribute to that as well. But I'm sure it'll be good fun next week. I think we're gonna preview a bunch of fun stuff for Xfinity trucks and ARCA, maybe from what I'm told.
I'll put a good rundown for us all together. So we'll be, I guess, yeah. What is it? 168 hours from now? 167, I guess, because it's 8 o'clock now. We're coming up on a full hour here for this show. But yeah, stay tuned. Monday nights, just like last year, Grid Live Encore will be covering Xfinity trucks, ARCA, East and West, F2, F3, Indy Lights, and this year, now that we have Casey, we're going to try to expand even to more coverage on what was the Road to Indy ladder. I know it's been a little bit. There's some changes coming to that this year with some rebranding, but Casey's going to tell us all about those and keep us all informed all throughout the year. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, and you just made one big mistake. Don't worry, the drivers have been doing it all year. It's Indy next. You said Indy Lights.
You see, I told you guys. I told you. I'm
NXT.
Yeah. Apologize in advance. I'm going to continue to do that probably, until we get to the Indy 500 still. But yes, thank you. Indy next. Indy next. It was Indy Lights.
My good buddy Reese on here because yeah.
Absolutely. Looks like we've got Kobe back, so Kobe, I'll turn it over to you to close us out tonight.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Loud and clear. Yep.
All right. Let's speed through before my internet does again. So this, as I was trying to say before my internet interrupted me, this weekend, one viewer from TikTok, IMV Gamer, correctly guessed Martin Truex Jr. and Pick a Winner. Edward Hunter continues to lead the Pick a Winner standings. And this upcoming weekend, we'll only have one race. That's Formula E going to India. So congratulations to IMV Gamer for getting on the leaderboard. We don't have any medals for correctly picking the Clash Pick a Winner, but if we did, we wouldn't cut away before handing out the winner of the gold medal. So as you all saw, there was a lot of confusion there with the podium. I have no idea what down there, but if NASCAR decides to do the podium again next year, hopefully they'll learn a few things and they'll be able to figure that out, so it can be an improvement over what we saw last night. So I don't know if you guys had any additional thoughts you wanted to share about the podium ceremony last night. I know they had Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch on the wrongs at the very end of the broadcast. We didn't really get to see hardly any of that. That was supposed to be one of the best parts at the end. I know they're not going to play the national anthem because it would just be the same all across the board unless we have state. Unless New Jersey has its own national anthem for Martin Truex Jr., Nevada for Kyle Busch, and then North Carolina for Austin Dillon.
Yeah, well, Suarez, I guess, we could have the Mexican national anthem for him if he had one. But yeah, I mean, I know the podium was a polarizing, sort of deal here. Some fans, were open to the idea. For virtually every other major motorsport does it. That's kind of the camp that I was in. Others said, this is NASCAR. The winner gets all the glory of victory lane to himself and everything. But I was all for this medal ceremony, especially since you're at the Coliseum, a venue that's hosted a couple of Olympic games before. I was all for the idea, but you got to execute it right. It just drives me crazy seeing the RCR teammates on the wrong side. And then again, going back to the Fox coverage, just another point that Brock brought up in his stream last night, for how much this ceremony was hyped up and anticipated. I mean, to cut away as they were putting the gold medal, or before they put the gold medal around Martin Truex Jr. I mean, it's just, I don't know, guys. I mean, we got 4 months of this, before NBC takes over. Oh man, I don't know.
Well, I'll just say solely on the medal ceremony, that was a pretty bad look. That they were able to show it in silence and closing out, but they weren't able to actually show or have the audio. I think that was a bad look. However, they're way over time, so I do understand it must have been just an absolute nightmare for the producers and the directors and everybody behind the scenes. But I do agree, it kind of created a bad look.
Remember, Fox has a new producer this year. Chris McDonald, I believe, is his name. Took over for longtime producer Barry Landis. So Fox, NASCAR on Fox says, Chuck. I correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Chuck McDonald. I'm not sure. Someone go look that up. So I know Fox got a new producer this year. I don't want to screw up his name. I should go back to
Yeah. I know he come over from Fox's college football coverage.
Yep.
Chuck McDonald. Yep.
Right.
Correct.
He's right the second time. So I know they have a new producer, but the thing is, it's like, everyone's trying to, TV only has this sort of window. We know that from the ARCA side of things. So yeah, and I know they've fixed that issue too. So we'll it's gonna be an interesting year. I can't wait to talk about that, and that's why I can't wait for the encore show to come back. So because this is what we're mostly going to be talking about. Yeah, it's
we got Fox for the whole year on that schedule, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, all 20 races are on Fox. That's huge for FS1 or FS2. So that's definitely going to be huge for them. Yeah, they released all the talent on there. Obviously excited to see Josh Sims on the Daytona 500 broadcast. Might get a chance to talk with him after Daytona. Working on that. Good to see my good friend Amanda Busick on the truck broadcast as well. Obviously, you know her from her and I have known each other for a long time. And then of course Heather DeBow is on the we'll be on the ARCA broadcast for Daytona. So that's gonna be quite exciting. And then we got the non-NASCAR related, but the World Series of Asphalt is back starting this weekend at New Smyrna. So no ARCA East race. That of course starts at Five Flags, and I'll have plenty more on ARCA East when we get to the encore show next Monday, because there's a brand new team that we have to talk about.
You're really excited to see the Grid Live Encore and continuing on with all of our programming here at Grid Network. So if you like what you saw tonight, please be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone who subscribed, following our Weekend of Rolex 24 coverage, helping us reach our goal of 500 subscribers before the Daytona 500. Now let's see if we can reach our new ambitious goal, 1,000 subscribers before the Indy 500 on May 28th, Memorial Day weekend. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notifications. Follow all our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Michelle, and Robin and invest in each month in the Grid Network. Welcome to our newest Patreon supporter, David. We're excited to have you join the amazing group of people who keep us on air. Once we hit $500 per month, we can begin sending members of our team to the track more consistently for live reports from the track and more content. Link in the video description. If you want to do a one-time donation, click the link to buy me a coffee. Get your name on the board as you see here on the screen and invest as much as you want and as often as you want. You can even buy a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and I'll thank you here in the air. And unfortunately, we're out of time for tonight. So for Ben Snyder, Matthew Bro, Jonathan Fiel, and Casey Campbell, I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful week.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.